I am so glad that you're here with me today. I have a question for you. Do you like books? Actually, love books where it's a series and you get to know these people who live in this town or in the environment in which the author writes about? Well, if that is you, then you are going to love today's guest, Kay Dew Shostak. Kay is an author of Southern fiction and cozy mysteries, and she just brings her characters to life. And it's just wonderful how she's going to share today how she brings that all together and part of her process and how she became a book writer. So stay tuned for this episode of Life Mosaic. But before we get into the interview with Kay, let's go ahead and hear a word from Living Legacy with Wheezy.
And what is that one story you want your children to remember or your grandchildren? Is it the tale of how you've overcome a challenge? Is it the day that you met the love of your life? Or perhaps when you held your first grandchild? Your story is a treasure, it's a part of who you are, and a gift to the generations to come. Imagine your grandchildren hearing it in your voice, feeling those emotions, seeing your face, hearing your voice, passing it on, and then they are able to pass this on to their children. I'm Wheezy, and I'm your storytelling guide. I can help you capture your life stories in a way that is unique and personal to you. Let's preserve it together for the ones that you love.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. I'm here with my friend Kay, book author, and welcome to Life Mosaic. Hey, Kay, I am so glad that you're here with me today. How are you?
Great. So glad to be here. We actually snowy day in Florida. So it's an exciting day here. Everybody's all excited.
How much snow did you get there?
We didn't get half inch, maybe not that much, but it happened after we got up. That was on my fear was that it would snow during the night, but 6:30 it was started snowing. So you got to see
Okay.
we got to actually see the snow. But a little north of here, they got South Georgia got 5 inches and they're just flabbergasted. They don't know how to deal with it. But so it's an exciting day to be coming to you from Florida.
Yeah, my podcast partner for my other podcast, Legacy Unfolds, he's in Savannah and they had like
Oh,
3 inches
okay.
on the ground. So,
Yeah. It's beautiful.
quite the anomaly, right? Of the snow so far south. But anyways, I know I've talked to you before, and the exciting news is Kay has out a new book from her Cozy Mysteries series, and we're going to learn about that. But today we're also going to learn what's been the driving motivation because here at Life Mosaic, we're always talking about stories and people's passions of different things of their life. And with Kay, today we're going to see what her passion is about being a book author. So, you want to show before we get started, you want to show off that new book?
There it is. The Pelican Did It, number 7 in the Cozy Mystery series, Southern Beach Cozy Mysteries. They're set in the an island off the coast of North Florida.
And they are very entertaining. I'm in the middle of The Pelican Did It, and it's like my little. I like to take a little time in the evenings and maybe just savor. And I am saying I savor a little bit of the book because I have learned through time you want to savor case books because you could just not do anything and devour them. And then you're sad because then you have to wait for the next one.
I have to wait.
So I'm learning to savor the books and taking a little bit of time to go through.
A lesson for life. That's good.
Yes. And and I'm going to give you a chance to plug it. Where can you find it?
My books are all available. I have 20 books out. This was my 20th book. Southern Fiction for 2 series. And the one is set in North Georgia, one is set in South Georgia. This series is set, like I said, North Florida. But all of my books are available in print and ebook, and they're on Amazon. They are also, all my books are on Kindle Unlimited. So if you belong to Kindle Unlimited, you can just hit next and it's basically free, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love Kindle Unlimited.
I love it. I love it. That is how I devour all my books.
But they're also available in print, and any bookstore can get them, and because they're printed through Ingram, any bookstore can order you a print book. Or I also mail them all over the country. People want signed books, or especially if they're given a gift, and I sign them and mail them all over the country for just enough to cover my cost. And just find me on Facebook and message me, and you can let me know, and you can get a signed copy.
That is awesome. That's the one thing I love about UK is you are so approachable. In your books, your characters are so approachable. We're getting ahead of ourselves here, and what was it? So you said 20 books? now?
Yes.
20 books. What what drove you? What was your inspiration to becoming a book author? Did you know all of your life? Was that a passion for you?
I loved reading, always did. My family was not big readers. My mom, when she read my first book, she goes, Kate, I just think that's the first book I've ever read. She's not a reader, but she took us to the library. She knew I loved reading. And I'm saying that too, if you've got a kid that doesn't like to read, it doesn't mean their kids won't like to read. Or if you don't like to read, just don't worry about it. Just let it go. And I love to read. And I just loved it. And I grew up thinking, oh, it'd be wonderful to write. And Louise May Alcott book, The Little Women, reading about her life, that was my favorite thing to read about authors' lives. But Louise May Alcott of Little Women was my favorite. I read all her books. And I just thought that was the greatest thing ever to be able to write stories, not nonfiction, but stories. But I thought everyone wanted to do it. Everyone that loved to read, I just knew wanted to write books. So this was nothing special. Everybody wants to write books. This is not a big deal. And I was in my 30s and had all three of our children. We lived up in northern Illinois outside Chicago. And I was in book club. And I went to book club one night and we'd read a book. And it was set in the South, which I was from the South. And we were read this book. I don't even remember the book. But I remember sitting at the table and I said, oh, don't you wish you'd written this book? And to a person around the table, they did what you just did, Louise. They were like, no, what? Write a book? I don't. And these were librarians. The head librarian was there, the assistant librarian. These are people that devoured books. One of the ladies was a professor, and she said, oh, I've written I write papers and stuff. And I said, oh, no, fiction. I don't mean not I write fiction. And she goes, make up a story? No, never even entered my head. I was blown away. And so I went home to my husband who read, and I said, have you ever thought about writing a book? I never mentioned this to him because I thought he looks at me and goes, never has entered my head. And I knew right then and there, oh, this is a God thing. This is for me. This is something I'm supposed to do. And I started writing the next morning and was like, because there were stories there and I would read books and think, why don't they do this? And why wouldn't they do that? And how silly are these people that they won't go do this or they won't? There were so many times to be like, you people need to go to church or you people need to go get some friends or you people need to, but it never. And so I started writing. I lived up in Illinois. How old are my kids now there? So this was 20, 30 years ago. It was a long time ago. And I always wrote for stuff and I was PTA president and I would go to the school board meetings. And one time I said to the newspaper person there, I said, yeah, that last article, the editor happened to be there. I said, the last article wasn't what happened at the meeting. And she said, why don't you write it for us next month? And she goes, I won't print it or anything, but you just write me an article and let me see what it looks like. And so I did. And in a couple of years, I was the editor of the newspaper.
Oh, wow.
I brought in my rendition of what I thought had happened at the meeting, and she's, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is great. So I wrote for the newspaper, which is great for anybody that wants to be a writer, because on Tuesday you'd write up your article and you would send it upstairs. You would go home, you come back the next day, and that copy is laying on your desk with big X's in red. They would use the thick red magic marker and say, doesn't make sense, question marks, crossing stuff out. So it's great to make you realize what you write is not gold. It can be changed, it can be made better. And then I started writing books. I've published 20 books, but there's, I think, four and a half books that never, they were written. And most writers, if you talk to them, will tell you they have practice books.
Yeah.
And those are books that you practiced on. So that was it. Once I realized it was really something that God was saying to me, something that was meant for me to do, I never looked back, and I love it. I love stories and love writing.
Um, so you're a little bit more advanced in years when you start writing the books, but as a child, did you make up stories?
Not really. I made up stories in my head, and as a good fiction writer, I could lie. And my parents, be raised in the South, they called that stories. You're telling stories, and I got it. Yeah, I got quite a bit of that. You're telling stories, and I was very good at it, which is not a good thing. But my mom was also had the ability to lie. She had been raised with that, so she was able to spot it. And that's the best thing is if you have a child that's a liar, man, one of the parents better have been a liar, because a person that doesn't know how to lie, which is my husband, they do not believe people can look them in the eye and lie. And every liar out there will tell you, oh yeah, oh yeah, a liar can look you in the eye and lie. So I told a lot of stories that way. My mom, if you've seen the Anne of Green Gables with Megan Fellows, I love Anna Green Gables. I never read it as a kid, but my mom watched that series, and she called me. And this is back when we lived in Illinois, so it's 30 years ago. She goes, Kay, that's exactly how you were. You made up stories all the time. And I did. I just lived but I didn't write them down. So no, I wasn't one of those. I just lived if you watch Anna Green Gables, she lives in
Oh,
a little fantasy world, and everything's beautiful, and there's magic, and yeah, that's how it was. And now I just write them down.
I I can relate to that a little bit because
I would imagine, yeah, that type.
growing up on a farm, being the last of six, everybody was busy. I had to think of things, and I wouldn't say I did. It wasn't lies, but I could play pretend
Yeah.
really well.
And most of mine was like that, but it would be where I would have to tell myself, wait, is this true or not? I would say something and I would think, I don't think that's true. But I had convinced myself, and I had made up a whole story to go with it. I know exactly what you're saying. You could just make your own imaginary world.
Yeah, yeah. But you have a process in writing these stories. So I'm sure you have a process. Do you have a ritual that you follow each day? Or how often do you write? And do you have a little ritual, a little set time, a set place where you go and you sit down and you go to work?
Yeah, I work at this desk. I work in my office. I work at a computer. I am not a big laptop person. I'm not a person that moves it around. I get distracted again, making up the stories. I don't, I write at this desk. I have written at a laptop. I don't like it. I write at my desk. I have my candle lit. It's lit now. I love 9 to 12. I'm a morning person, always have been. But when I first started writing, I had kids, and 9 to 12 gave me time to write in them, get them off to school, write, and then have the afternoon to get things back together. And when they're different ages, they're already coming in at 2 o'clock. And so 9 to 12 is my best time. And I write, since my husband retired, I don't write as many days, but I'm a faster writer now than I used to be. There's different kinds of writers. There's plotter, Plotter. So you plot everything out. You have an outline. Those people are very organized. And I always there's always some idea of where we're going. Setting is really important to me for the characters, for the story. But there's a plotter. I am not that. And then there's SOTP, which is seat of the pants. And seat of the pants is, I don't know what we're doing today. Let's just see where the story goes. And that's
What
how I
would you
write.
on Sophia Island today?
Right. And with the individual story, I'm very seasonal. I love my candles. I can't have a cinnamon candle this time of year. It's not fall. Cinnamon is fall. I am very seasonal. I'm seasonal in foods. I'm seasonal in colors, in perfume, in candles. I am decorating my house. I am just a very seasonal person. I am seasonal in my books. The
Mhm.
covers of my Chancy books in particular, it's a very definite season. That's where I began the time of year, cold. Like the Pelican Did It is set this time of year on
Mhm.
Amelia Island. And it's nice when it works together. Like right now, the Pelican Did It just came out, which is great for people reading it. However, I wrote it in the summer. So I'm having to remember. It's funny to me because I will be so in the time period I'm writing and what's going on that then I walk out and it's hot.
It's 90 degrees.
Right. It's, or it's raining in the book and it's raining. And then I get through writing and I look up out the window and it's not raining. And time, oh, it's dinner time and we're after dinner or something. And it's just noon. So I'm very much a setting person, which apparently that's a very Southern thing. Southern writers, oh, it's not Flannery O'Connell, but the other one I really liked, and I can't think of her name. But she talked about being in the South. Southerners are big people of place, and that is something that kind of sets Southern writers is something they do. I know it's not that all Southern, but she just said Southerners are just people of place, and so therefore it's very that's just part of me. So I start with where we're at. Then writing cozy mystery is totally different than writing just Southern fiction. It's just telling the characters' stories, and there's not a ball I need to advance. There are storylines, like if I need these people to meet, that kind of thing. But in a cozy mystery, which I have discovered, right, because this was the seventh, but writing mysteries, that was new to me. I have an agenda. I have a mystery that needs to be solved. I have red herrings I need to put in place. I I most of the time know who did the crime, but there have been times I don't know until it gets to the end of the book.
All right, you bring this up. I'm gonna because I do know your books. I love your book.
Yeah.
In your last one, what was it? The
The
flamingo?
flamingo did it. Yeah.
Was that where Charlie?
That's where the flamingos, the person's in the no, Charlie is the gator. No,
Okay, the Gator
Gator
because
did
it
it.
was the Gator football game.
Yeah, that was football season. Again, seasonal. Yeah, that was football
So
season.
I don't want to give anything away, but
No.
in that book, did you know from the beginning who? Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
Okay, because I thought it might need to go that way and I didn't want it to.
No, no.
Stuff like that happens where you're like, I just don't want this person in my Chansey series. I have a beloved character that dies. And people are just, that can't happen. And I'm like, but it does. And it did. And it moves everybody's story. Because as a writer, you're sitting there, especially like in the Chansey, which those are the Southern fiction. So I don't have an agenda. I need to solve this case. I need to figure out who did this. I don't have steps. I don't have red herrings I need to lead them on. But in Southern fiction, I know with that one, something comes to you and it's like you're like it's looking like it's going that way that this character's going to die, and you're thinking, well, I don't want him to die. And so we've all watched a TV show or read a book where they should have killed somebody, or somebody hangs on too long. And that as a writer, I got to feeling like I'm saving this person's life and it's killing everybody else. That everybody else's story needed to move on and they couldn't with him there. And so that's a lot for me, that seat of the pants where you're like, I think I know where this is going. And then everything falls in place. That's what's crazy is when it starts and you do get towards the end and you realize, oh, that's why that happened back in chapter 3, because this was going to happen in chapter 24. And you go back and you're like, yep. And that's really fun to go back and find things that led to that. And so it makes you know the story was there. It was just some famous author said something about it's just doing service to the story. The story's there. Maybe it's an author's prayer or something, but it's like, let me service the story to the very best of my ability because the story's already there. And let me just serve it. So that's the feeling you get.
Yeah. I just want to step back for just 1 second. And you were saying when you go to write, you said you write at your desk
Yes.
and you don't like a laptop, but are you working on a desktop or are you actually writing out?
Oh, I'm desktop. Oh, I'm definitely computer. Definitely. I am, yeah, I'm definitely
You
computer.
don't-
I love typing. I took typing back when you took it for no, you couldn't figure out why in the world you were taking typing. And then now you're like, golly, I'm so glad I took that typing. Well, that's when nobody knew, when typewriter, nobody knew what they were doing it for. You just did it.
Yeah. I did not excel in typing and I'm still slow.
So that's see, my husband never took typing. He was an engineer and it's awful. He types, he does the 2-finger pecking thing. So
Hot pack. But not that I'm writing books or anything. I have to do outlines for scripts or whatever. Back in the day, I was writing copy for commercials and different things like that. But I still to this day, if I really want something to resonate with me, I still have to I at least start it with pen and paper.
oh wow. No, I like it and I have notebooks everywhere. Not for my writing. I tend to not I need to be at my desk writing to write. I don't do notes. I do stuff in my head, but I need fingers on the I heard someone say one time they were a person that did radio. And they said, until I get behind the microphone, does it all come together for me? And that's how I feel about the typewriter, about the keyboard. Until I get at the keyboard is when it all comes together for me.
Yeah. So, yeah, we all have our processes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, my next question is I got to get my glasses. So, I know as a parent, we always pick our favorite child. Do you have a favorite character? Is there somebody who's just so impartial to you that's very near and dear to your heart in your books?
In the Chansey books, I associate myself a lot with Carolina, and she's the main character, and everything comes through her voice. But I think a lot of that was just because she was my first character that I was writing. I write in first person, which really works for me. And I think I really associate with her. But my favorite character is Annie in the Southern Beach Mysteries. But she's the one that most people don't like. And I didn't realize I go to a couple of and they're just like, she's just too. And it's funny. But she's also someone that is so totally character based on a friend and the friend doesn't know it. And the friend reads the books. And I can't understand how you don't, but boy, it really shows me you don't see yourself. And I love Annie because for one thing, she says a lot of the stuff that I say and think. She's not abrasive as much as very sarcastic.
Mhm.
Some of my first books that didn't get published, I was it was Christian fiction. And my main character was very sarcastic and said stuff that was very sarcastic. It was third person, so you didn't have the interior, you didn't know what that she was thinking. And I had an agent that I was hoping to work with that said, I think you need to try something other than Christian fiction.
I would find that hysterical. And I am a believer.
Christian fiction has changed a lot since then. This was back in the
Real.
Yeah, this was back in the 90s and it was and that's where I started writing first person because I can have Carolina say all the mean stuff in her head.
Yeah.
And the stuff you say about your kid as they're walking out of the room in your head, But if you,
Me
you,
never.
yeah, that's why you like my book so much. And so first person allows you to say, allows me to have a character that's not outspoken. They say stuff in their head. And I think that really resonates with women.
Yeah.
And so Annie, I love Annie because Annie doesn't say it in her head. She says it out loud. And so she's really fun to write. She's fun to write. And I love writing Mrs. in the Chansey books is ornery, the matriarch of the town, of everything. And just ask her. And she doesn't care what you think about her. And I love writing her. So it's different who you love to write and who you really identify with.
Yeah, you do a fabulous job with all of them. I know we talked about it at the top of the interview, but let's dive back in to remind the listeners and the viewers, how many books do you have? Where can we find them? And
I
what?
have twin.
Okay, I know at the top of the interview, we talked about your latest book and where we can find them, but let's go ahead and give our viewers and our listeners a reminder of the latest book, your series, and where they can find them.
All right. The latest book, we'll start there, is The Pelican Did It. And I think you can see it without the glare. And it's a cozy mystery set it's on Sophia Island, which is basically Amelia Island, which is an island off the coast of North Florida. And it's number 7 in the series. It's Southern Beach Cozy Mystery Series. And if you've ever been to Amelia Island, it's a charming little town, little island. I say that and it's charming, but we also have a Ritz Carlton and an Omni and amazing golf courses. And so we get the best of everything. And we have paper mills, so we get the more hometown feeling. It doesn't feel like a tourist town. So it's just a delightful place. And we've lived here. Now we've lived here like 13 years, but we'd visited before when we lived in Florida right out of college. And it's just a perfect place to set a cozy mystery. I love locations for cozy mysteries. So those 7 books are set on Sophia Island. They begin with Jewel, who the protagonist, she never lived in the South and never lived on the coast. And those are 2 interesting things for someone to do. And so I love writing about people, women in different circumstances and having to flourish. The other series that's longer is 11 books, and it's the Chansey series, and it's set in Chansey, Georgia, a small town in the North Georgia mountains. It does not exist, but it could. My grandparents were buried in Blue Ridge, Georgia. We lived in Marietta, Georgia for 10 years. And so I just love the North Georgia mountains. Her fish out of water type thing is she grew up in a small town, swore she would never live in a small town again. And she accidentally puts her house on the market when she's mad at her daughter, teenage daughter, and it sells. And now they need a house, and her husband has always wanted to run a bed and breakfast in the mountain. And the one he wants happens to be for sale and happens to be right beside a railroad line. And it's just perfect. And so all of a sudden, Carolina finds herself in a small town and everybody very excited about her opening up a bed and breakfast. And so she moves there with her husband and teenagers, and yeah, it's something. And that series has 11 books in it, and a little bit of a surprise may be coming with a new book. Yeah, I've not really, although it's going really well. I started last year a book. I moved everything in Chansey 10 years ahead. And
Wow,
yes,
that's a big jump.
it is. And those teenagers are now young parents, and all that brings with it. And the adults that were my age at that time are now my age again. So now they,
No feeling at retirement,
yeah, and they
Look at me.
and all of that whole idea of what it means to have adult children. And I'm really enjoying writing it. I wrote some on it last year, about 30,000 words, and got stuck and really wanted to write The Pelican Did It and thought, I'll just stop that and write The Pelican Did It. And I think I needed some time to figure out the difference of writing a mystery versus writing the Southern fiction. And I said that to you earlier. I'm just telling a story in Southern fiction. I'm not moving ahead. that. And then I have a 2-book series, Backwater, Florida, and that's just 2 books. I don't think I'll ever expand on those.
I
know.
love that story. I love that storyline. It was
I
that when that those were the first 2 books I read.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I remember that now. But people all the time ask, and I don't know, maybe one day it'll come up. But I just liked that for Becca Sue's story. It was just her story, and it's just never come to me that I needed to finish it. But you're the first person, and everybody here, that I am working again on I called it, it's a chancy future. Yeah. So far, it's being fun. Yep.
Well, thank you for sharing that, letting me be the first to know that.
Oh, there you go.
I'm in the know now.
You're in the know. You're in the know.
Uh, um, and did you say where you could find them?
Oh, all of my books are on Amazon. I sell through Amazon. My books are also in local bookstores, libraries. You can request your library because my books are printed by Ingram, and I have had several people request the books that their library stock the books, and they have. And Kindle, they're on ebook and on print from Amazon. I also sell. People find me on Facebook and ask, and they want signed copies. I mail them all over the nation, and especially people buying gifts, they signed gift. And my books are any age can read them. I have some friends whose teenage kids read them, but you won't be embarrassed to share them with your mother. So there you go. That's that.
Now, we've talked before, and there's something special about is it just the cozy books or is it all your books, the size of the print copies?
Oh, the print, the books. So the mysteries are what I call pocket paper book size. Like if you grew up, like I used to read pocket paper. Pocket was an actual name brand, and so this is called. Okay, so you see the size difference.
Yeah.
Okay. This one is called trade paperback. And this size really hasn't been around except I would say the last 20 some. Remember they all of a sudden came up, you had these bigger books. They're a little bit thinner because they're larger. And that's called a trade paperback. And then my dad read Louis L'Amour books. And the old mystery books were this size pocket book. But it was so funny. I did not know that was the young people don't know about that size. Apparently, people just think it's that I'm brilliant for coming up with this, and I did not come up with that size. But it's really great because people here living here on the beach, the bookstores downtown sell a lot of these, and they're like, "Oh, everybody loves it. They can just put it in their
Just
beach
put it
bag."
in your pocket. You can just put it in your pocketbook.
I remember because the pocket, but it was like a kangaroo was their symbol, and you could and it going in the pocket. And so I didn't invent this, but don't tell anybody. They think I'm brilliant, and I'm taking it. So
I won't tell anybody. Just
don't tell anybody.
just a few hundred people. Claire.
Okay.
Okay. As always, you've been on several times when I had Wednesday with Wheezy and promoting the books. But thank you for coming and playing along now that I've taken the sleepover into podcast land. And just as always, it's just a pleasure to have you. And I'm so excited to finish reading The Pelican Did It and to see the Chauncey Future book when it's released.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always a delight when I get invited to come spend some time with you and your listeners and viewers now.
Yes, it's catching up with a friend over a good cup of coffee.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay, have a great time finishing writing this other book, and I hope the sale that a lot of my listeners will heed and go to Amazon and get your books.
Oh, I hope so too. And look me up on Facebook. It's a fun time. I'm safe. I'm safe. Facebook. You can come enjoy it just and know all about the writing and everything.
I always tell people, I go, she's so open with everything. The thing I love about being with you on Facebook is you share your real family on Facebook. And we know about Mike's retirement where you might go really actually go see those railroads and watch the trains, grandkids. And as so many of us are going through life with aging parents, and it's great to be able to know that you're just so human, like the rest of us.
That's I tell people it's Southern family fun. That's my if I like funny stuff and beautiful stuff. I'm very much a landscape beauty flower, but at the same time, it's family. It's real. It's what's happening. So
What's happening?
yes,
Well, hey, just thank you again for coming. And
thank
like
you
I
for
said, go buy her books. They are a hoot and you will really enjoy them. So until next time, everybody, bye.
bye.
So, everybody, that was up my interview with Kay Dew Shostak.
Shostak.
So, everybody, I just want to thank you again for joining us. And as always, you can find me on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram at LLW Wheezy. That's WEEZY, to be able to catch up with what's going on here at Wheezy with the Living Legacy and all of the podcasts that are going on now. And if you want to subscribe to be able to always follow the podcast, just go over to lifemosaic.me and you will get story show notes. And if we have extra pictures, if you've just been on the audio, we'll have pictures over there so that you can see that. And any notes that links and all of that will be shown over at the show notes page on lifemosaic.me. Until next time, everybody, bye.